Just a heads up, everybody, we're just going to record this session here as well. So, um, thank you everybody for copping on. Obviously, for those who don't know who I am, I think most people in here do. I'm Ryan, Director of Tour Operations for Junior Players Tour. I'm excited to kind of do this webinar series with the One Iota Golf Performance guys to kind of try to help you guys and build some more resources in terms of getting ready for tournaments, tournament preparation, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna basically throw it over to them for the rest of the things. We got Kim and Scott that are kind of going to be leading things, and then Ryan also here as part of the team. So I'll let them take over, introduce themselves, and do their thing. So thank you guys for coming out, and then hopefully we get some good stuff from this.
Right on. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I guess it's late afternoon for some of you, or maybe early evening for some of you, depending on where you're joining us from. We're going to dive into things here pretty quickly, but my name's Kim Senecal. Just a couple of quick notes. I've got a background in sports psych, did a master's degree in that field. Have been working with the Simon Fraser University men's and ladies golf teams for now what is my seventh year as their mental performance, high performance coach. And I've been working with BC Golf for the last three, I guess entering the fourth year now with their high performance program for juniors. And I'll just let Scott maybe introduce himself. And then Ryan, probably you should just do a quick intro too.
Great, thanks, Kim. Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Scott Kerr. I am currently the assistant men's and women's golf coach at Simon Fraser University, which is the only NCAA program in Canada. I was formerly the captain of the SFU team when I was playing in university, and then a touring pro from 2020 until fairly recently. Most recently, competing in Europe. And thanks for everyone for joining us here.
And I'm also Ryan, and I'm part of the One Iota team. My background is primarily actually on from golf. I was part of the SFU golf team as well, and kind of noticing a bit of a connection there between the three of us. And my background's obviously from college golf, and then on the technical side, kind of from a stats tracking standpoint as well. So looking forward to the session Kim and Scott are going to share today.
All right. We're going to dive into things here. Just really quickly, here's the agenda. We're going to talk about why tournament preparation matters. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. That's why you registered for this. Within that, we're going to discuss some of the typical preparation approaches that we see with primarily juniors and college athletes, and also talk about why those don't always work. And then we'll get into the preparation keys that we do think, and we'll wrap up a little bit with some dealing with distractions. And we're also making the assumption here that everyone here, either athlete, maybe a coach or a parent, there's going to be a lot of events that you have the potential to play this year. So this is probably a topic that's going to be pretty useful for you. Just before we dive in, though, I want to do a quick check-in opportunity for people to see if they can get the chat going. Can you just tell us like where you are calling in from or where you're joining the webinar from? And let's just check in really quickly and see if we can get some of that. So we got a couple of responses. See if we can get a few more here. Probably we're just testing this out. We're gonna have a little quiz for you later. Well, not that far later, pretty much right away. Okay, and I'll just see Scott. Can you see the chat? What
I
are you
can,
seeing
yeah.
so far?
Yep. A few people from Ontario, a bunch of people from BC, one from Saskatchewan at the moment here too. Thanks
All
everyone
right.
for coming on with us.
Yeah, welcome. Again, we can see a little different time zones, so a little later in Ontario than it is out here. All right. Thanks for checking in on that. So moving ahead, we got a quick quiz for you. You're gonna have to do it using the chat. So have you ever done any of the following while you've been playing in a tournament? We're going to go through these one at a time. So just put yes or no in the chat really quickly. So didn't bring enough golf balls or didn't bring any golf balls. I know Mr. Stoley's here is a definite yes on this.
All right. A few people having experienced it. For the most part, everyone's pretty good about their golf balls though.
Yeah, not typical, right? What about forgot key equipment? So maybe it's a club, rangefinder, golf shoes, tees, anything like that?
Like seems like Ryan Stolleys and I are the main culprits of this, but a few other people saying yes too.
Right. People don't always want to admit this, but it's probably happened to most everybody. How about rain gear? If you're living out in BC, kind of critical.
A couple of our BC residents are the ones saying yes to this for the most part, though. A little bit scattered again.
Yeah. Yeah. And last one here, how many of you have ever forgotten to bring food or water or just not enough of either of those?
A lot of yeses, a couple people adamantly no. So pat on the back
Okay.
for those that are adamantly prepared and always ready to roll with food and water.
All right.
Shouldn't be
Right
an
on.
issue in any junior players tour events now with the BioSteel on site. So
Very
always got
nice.
stuff for them.
Perfect.
Excellent. Excellent. Even at the college level, we see athletes forgetting each of these pieces of potential equipment or eating enough or bringing enough golf balls. It happens. Now, the next thing we want to ask you about is what's the impact of this? So when you forget something, what happens for you while you're playing a tournament? And you can just write down one or more of these if they apply to you. Do you get nervous? Do you get worried? Do you get distracted? Do you potentially play poorly because you got nervous, worried, or distracted? Or you actually play great when you forget something?
Some nerves and distraction, bit of panic.
Yep, panic's pretty common.
Nervousness seems to be our most common one.
Yep, people tend to get a little scrambly if that happens. Anyone play great? Did we get any of those responses, Scott?
We have one neutral.
Okay.
No noticeable difference.
Yeah. In the 7 years that I've been assisting there at SFU, we've had one athlete who actually played better if they forgot something because they got out of their own head. But typically it's the kind of thing that gets people spinning and they start to struggle a little bit with that. So, all right. Thanks for joining in here. This is where we're getting to today here is like why not preparing is kind of a crazy thing. So we just talked about a couple of golf examples and you can probably see that they have a negative impact on you. I want you to think about this from a slightly different perspective as well. Just imagine that you were going to take a road trip somewhere that was really exciting for you. You've been thinking about this for a long time. The road trip's going to be maybe 3, 4 hours away, and you're going to get there by car. So you're hitting on or heading towards this road trip. Again, super critical, really important. You've been thinking about this for a long time. You don't know how to get there because you've never been there before, number one. And number two, as you start your road trip, you don't put any gas in the car. This is the idea of something that's really important to you that you really want and not being prepared for it. It doesn't seem to really line up. It doesn't make a ton of sense. Hopefully you can see this in a golf context as well. It's like all of you have put a lot of work into your games. You take this as something that's really important. You want to get a certain result. And if you're not preparing, you're not taking advantage or getting ready to take advantage of all the things that you've been working on. So a little more detail here, if we think about this, why preparation is important, we think about this from 4 perspectives. The first one is it allows you to 100% CWYCC, which means control what you can control. It's really critical as an athlete competing that you take advantage of the things that are within your control. So preparation is one of those things that's 100% there. Secondly, it allows you to maximize your ability. And think about this for each of you who's watching tonight. You've probably spent years, definitely tons and tons of time, hours training either independently or working with your coaches to improve your skills, develop your abilities, all aspects of your game. It doesn't make sense to get 95% of the way there and then you don't put the little extra effort into getting ready for a tournament. And part of the reason that we want to do that is because getting ready or prepping properly for a tournament allows you to focus on the things that you want and not get distracted by the things that you don't want. And we'll see this with athletes, junior level, especially someone at the college level, when they don't prepare properly, they end up focusing on the things that they're worried about or don't want to happen instead of taking care of the things that they do want to happen. And last with this is when you make a plan, we want it to include what we call the 4 components of performance. And we're going to introduce those here in the next slide and talk about what those are. But it lets you basically take advantage of all the aspects of your game that will help you play your best. So I've talked about the 4 components of performance. And when we look at these, I don't think there'll be any surprises in here for people, but you may not have thought about them in this context before. But we're looking at physical, technical, tactical, and the mental aspects of the game. All 4 of these things need to work together in order for you to perform at peak. And this becomes more and more important the higher you move along in your golf career. So at the junior level, you can kind of get away with maybe focusing only on the technical for a little while, although as soon as you get into competition, really these other pieces do become important. But the higher you go, and I'm making the assumption that a lot of people on this call want to play at the college or higher level, you're going to need to address all four of these. In terms of prepping for a tournament, we definitely need to address all four of these. So when we talk physical, what we're talking about here is your fitness. So it can be your strength, your power, your flexibility, your mobility, your cardio, your ability to kind of be out on course and have endurance and energy. We're also talking about the fuel you put in your body, whether it's liquid, hydration, water, electrolytes, or the foods you eat, energy bars, etc. And then lastly, we're talking about recovery. So this idea of allowing your body to recuperate after putting in hours and effort into training and or competing. So this might be things like stretching, it might be rolling, it might be taking a nap, could be sleep, might also include things like doing hot and cold treatments to just help your body recover and get back to normal. On the technical side, this is the one where everyone's most familiar. So it's pretty obviously your skills and technique. So can you use all your clubs? Can you do everything that you want to be able to do with those clubs in various situations? It also includes your equipment, all aspects of your equipment. Are they up to top notch? Do they suit you and how you play? Next, we move into tactical, and there are a few things here that are really critical. One, obviously, do you have a strategy for addressing the course in each hole, kind of shot by shot? Coupled with this is this idea of having course awareness. Do you know what each hole on the course that you're playing is going to do or dictate to you? Is it kind of trying to get you to do something that maybe you shouldn't be doing? And lastly, on the tactical side here is what we call situational awareness. So things change. You can play the exact same course, the exact same holes multiple times in a row. It may be slightly different every time based on, say, pin placement. It might be different based on weather conditions. So today here in Vancouver area, it's raining a bit. That's going to impact the way you play and what you decide to do on course versus if it's blazing hot and the wind's blowing. So being aware of all the tactical elements. And last, and this one's really critical again, as you increase the level that you're competing at. If we look at the pros, especially, this is the big differentiator between those who have long-term success and those who don't. But it includes how you think about your game, whether you're positive, optimistic, or whether you're negative or kind of worried about things, how you manage your own emotions on course and off course, and a core set of component mental skills that we call them, things like self-talk, the kind of language that you're using with yourself, the cue words that you might be saying, what you picture in your brain before you play and while you're playing, things of that nature, your relaxation skills. Can you calm yourself down in key moments? Can you get yourself act up or jacked up appropriately to address key moments as well or pressure situations? And the last thing that we have under here is this idea of social skills. So while you're playing, you're not out there entirely by yourself. Even when you're training, you're interacting with other people, other players, competitors, maybe friends, coaches, parents. How can you manage those relationships so that you can play your best golf? So those are the four components. And again, the reason we're talking about them is if you're going to be successful in tournaments, you actually need to have a plan that addresses all four of these leading up into a tournament. Now, these are the things that we see as typical preparation heading into an event. And so when we're talking about that, we're talking about the 5 to 7 days before, the practice round itself, the pre-round warm-up, and then in between rounds if you have multiple days for an event. We see this definitely with juniors. We sometimes see this with college, although that sometimes is like probably a pretty high percentage. But we either see pretty minimal or no preparation, just show up, see what happens, hope for the best. At the junior level, we often actually see this one, a little too much preparation. People have a tendency to get themselves burnt out, maybe mentally anxious because they're worried about how they're going to perform or even what they need to do to get ready for the event. And then college level sometimes, junior sometimes the wrong focus. You might be working on things that won't have a significant impact for the event that you're planning on. So having said that, those are the three typical patterns. We do also see sometimes people prep appropriately, they prep well. But what we're going to talk about in the next few slides here is this idea of here's the typical things, and we'll show you what people do, but we'll also show you why we think they don't always work. And so I'm going to pass this off to Scott here for our next slide.
All right, thanks, Kim. So as you guys can see here, this one of the biggest, most common things that we see is a massive emphasis on your golf swing. So a big swing focus. Something typical we see is trying to quote unquote find your swing. right? Everyone has their ideal image of what their golf swing looks like and feels like and what that golf swing produces. And people really try to get into grooving and finding that exact outcome. And one of the major things that comes up and why that doesn't work is because you forget your process. The things that make you successful and the things that make your golf swing work are all oriented around the actual process rather than a specific feel or a specific component of your swing there. That's something that we see very, very frequently, and it's not a repeatable process to try and find your swing every single time you have to go out and go out into a competition. Another typical thing we see is last minute adjustments, trying to learn more skills and try and increase your options for shot types and shot shapes. In this window that we have, 5 to 7 days before a practice round, before a competition or into your practice round, or even in pre-round warm-up, players will do this. Your body and your brain just don't have enough time to learn these new skills in such a short time frame. Speaking on another one of the swing focuses is hitting a ton of golf balls. This kind of relates to finding your swing. Why it doesn't work is it often leads to fatigue and injury. I think all of us can relate to experiencing blisters and calluses on our hands and our feet from golf shoes and hitting a ton of golf balls. That more often than not, hitting a ton of shots ahead of a tournament is going to lead to that more than anything else. And then the last one that we want to touch on here too is the last swing that you make is going to equal your confidence. We see this a lot in pre-round warm-up where everyone wants to finish on a shot that really feels good. And why that doesn't work is that it often takes away from your previous successes. Kim mentioned earlier, everyone here has put in a ton of work into their golf, oftentimes years and many, many hours. And those are the successes that are going to make you successful in competition, not the swing that you make 45 seconds before you have to run to the first tee.
Next thing that we see in terms of typical preparation is how people approach course knowledge. And so one of the things that's relatively common is people only see the course during their practice round. So if you're playing at a course for an event that you're not familiar with, the only time they've seen that course or anything about it is during the practice round. Part of the reason this is problematic is it's really challenging to put a plan in place. Obviously, you're not going to have a plan if you've never seen the course and you haven't done any work online to try and figure out some information about that course, which means you got a whole bunch of question marks in your head. It burns a lot of mental fuel. Secondly, we see kind of limited information that people have gathered ahead of tournaments around the tee locations, or sorry, the tees, the approach shots, the greens, the possible pin locations. They don't know a lot about how the course is laid out. And so this definitely creates a chunk of uncertainty around how they're going to approach each shot with each hole, and then whether or not they're going to be able to be committed to those particular shots. If you don't know what you're facing, it's really tough to get committed. Next thing that we see here is this idea of learning the course while we're playing the event. So pretty tough to adjust if you are first time seeing the course and first time figuring out your strategy while you're actually playing the event. You're giving yourself away a ton of strokes during that kind of situation. So it makes it impossible to adjust during the event itself, or by the time you do adjust, it's going to be too late. You've already done the damage. You're likely going to have some poor targets. You're for sure going to have some unexpected situations, bad rolls, or things that you weren't planning for or aware of while approaching some of these greens. Next thing that's somewhat related to this is just understand, like if you're approaching the course, you don't have a lot of information, the tendency there is I'm going to watch what the other players are doing and I'm going to copy them. Well, that could work great if you're playing with someone who knows that course inside out and their game is identical to your game, but in most cases, that's not going to work. You're going to end up with poor targets. You're going to select the wrong shots because they're not appropriate for your game.
The next piece here is comparisons. You will see a lot of each other in these provincial events, these JPT events. And then once you're at the collegiate level, you very frequently play with the similar teams in your conferences and your regions. And so it's very, very easy to start to compare your game to better players and people who have had success most recently. Now, why this doesn't work is it gets you out of your own process. And oftentimes, you see this a lot in university golf, and especially with some of the collegiate teams, is it gets you psyched out. All of a sudden, you're seeing these other competitors that you see on a regular basis who all of a sudden are scaring you because they're in that field. You're starting to undermine your own ability. Touching on what Kim was mentioning as well, following someone else's plan. Um, Again, the reason why this doesn't work is very often this will get you doing things that don't actually work for you. You have a very unique game and your plan needs to suit you. Another comparison is to yourself in a phase where you were better. And this happens a ton and it's very, very easy to do. This creates a bunch of negativity and actually it has you feeling less capable. And oftentimes that better is a time that is impossible to define anyway. And then again, the comparison, a really easy one is the last round or the last time you played a hole and the confidence around it. Now, why this doesn't work is it's very based on your emotions and the emotional highs and lows will dictate your approach. When you're feeling really good, it'll change things. When you're feeling a little less than that, it'll change things as well.
The next thing that we see that's pretty typical at the junior and the college level here is this adopting a perfection mentality. And so what does that look like? If people feel like they must be perfect or they can't perform, and that can include all the time leading up to the event. They got to play perfect golf or perfect practice leading up to the event, especially during the practice round and during their warm up. And the reality is, it's not possible to do that. What ends up happening is you're comparing yourself, going back to what Scott was saying on the last slide there, against an ideal that's not possible to attain, and you generate a ton of anxiety. So as the week goes on, as you get closer to the event, you just start feeling more and more anxious about what you're going to do. Second thing that we see related to this perfection mentality is that people have a very particular idea about what their warm-up needs to look like and exactly what they have to do during their warm-up. See this way more with juniors than we do at the college level. And it's this idea that you won't be able to play well unless you have the exact warm-up that you want to have. A couple of reasons why this doesn't work. Number one, it becomes superstitious after a period of time. You're not actually getting ready during your warm-up. You're just going through this kind of routine without really thinking about it or connecting with the pieces of it. It can burn a lot of mental energy too if you don't have the ability to do the exact same warm-up every single time. And we know coaches are going to point you to this, and it's a good intention to point you towards like having a routine that you can follow, but you also have to be able to adapt. And when juniors make the transition into college, one of the toughest things that they struggle with is adapting to the different things that are going to happen during warm up. When you go to an event at the college level, oftentimes you don't get a full warm up, or you're competing with space with other teams or other athletes. So you might not get in a full driving range session. You might not get the opportunity to be on the putting green for a very long period of time. So this can get actually in the way and gets you away from getting ready mentally and physically and pulls you back into being superstitious and feeling like, oh, I wasn't able to prep properly. I'm not going to play well today. Last thing we see on the perfection side is hoping to hold on to the best version of your game. So again, ties in with what Scott was talking about at the last slide there. It's this idea here, if you're worried about losing how you've been playing up to this point, you're going to be very hesitant. You're going to play with some tentativeness. And most likely you're going to really struggle if you do make any mistakes because you don't know how to deal with it. You weren't expecting it, or you were hoping it wasn't going to happen. So you're not ready to adjust when it does happen. In terms of this one, we're talking about something that we see pretty typically as well as this idea of training too much. So think about this one, probably more about the 5 to 7 days before and possibly during the practice round. But we'll see a lot of athletes putting in a ton of extra time on course. So on the range, doing putting, they're actually increasing the number of hours that they end up training. The biggest reason this is problematic, there's just no time to recover. So you are draining physical and mental energy. And it was touched on earlier, you're actually not going to be changing your skill set in that period of time, at least not significantly. And so there'll be more damage with the amount of energy that you're drawing from or draining rather than any tweaks or improvements that you're going to make in your swing or in your game. The next thing tied into this was we see athletes just putting in a ton of time, but they don't necessarily have a clear plan for what they're doing during that extra chunk of training time or hours leading up to an event. So there's no clear focus. They're just hitting a bunch of balls without purpose, which is clearly not going to serve you very well. Those things that you're doing should allow you to get more dialed in as you lead up to the tournament and prep you for the particular course that you're going to play. So if you don't have a focus, it's going to be pretty tough to do that. Even though you're hitting a lot more balls or spending more time out there, it's not really doing anything for you. Next thing, and we see this a lot at the college levels where athletes feel like there just isn't enough time before the event to take care of everything that they need to take care of. At the college level, especially, you've got a ton of things going on from a school academic side of the street in terms of your workload. There's other things that you have to take care of. Being part of a college team, there's often community events that you need to participate in or team-oriented events that you're also taking part in. And this might be happening for you if you're still in high school or junior high school as well. Part of the problem here is it just increases the mental load if you're trying to get in a ton of training right before an event as well, and you still have other priorities. And oftentimes those other priorities slip and you start to feel like you're behind. What we see at the college level too is people are making a trade-off, and sometimes it doesn't feel right. They want to put more time into golf, but they feel like they maybe have a key assignment and they can't let go of that. And so they're not really doing the golf and they're not really doing the assignment and they're caught in the middle.
Next piece here is actually taking the preparation component too seriously. You get typically what we see is very outcome focused, setting goals that are oriented around things that are actually outside of your control, right? And we touched on the control what you control component, control what you can control, excuse me, component earlier. And that's where the outcome focus can really hinder your ability to prepare properly. Other things that we see are others pushing a work harder approach. So this can be people who have really great intentions, pushing an attitude that you need to put more work in ahead of time. And what that often leads to is creating additional mental tension and strain because you're not actually able to let go of golf. You do need that time to recover between training sessions and between rounds to be able to take advantage of the skills that you guys have. Another one that we see, this is more in the post round, so between either round one or round two or any of the other ones throughout a tournament, is trying to fix everything post round. So heading back towards the driving range or the putting green, and really working on a short-term fix to deal with the results. And why that doesn't work is ignoring the processes that allows you to be successful. There's just too many areas to focus in golf to try and identify a quick short-term fix for every component of your game. And then this is one that we see very, very frequently in college golf is constantly talking about and thinking about golf and reliving your round. When we competed at a collegiate level, we traveled together as a team. You'll get to know your teammates really, really well. There's a very positive social aspect there, but never letting go and moving on from a round will create mental burnout. It increases the anxiety, and there's often the social component of it where you start to compare stories, and stories have a tendency to get exaggerated and move out sort of out of the reality of what has happened, and you end up building negativity around the components of the game that you may actually not be as far off as you think you are.
Yeah, and just to add to that really quickly, Scott, like I see this a lot with the juniors that I work with as well. They end up,
Mm.
I was the best round of my life or it was the worst round of my life, and they want to relive over and over again. It just creates a lot of tension and anxiety.
And so in our next piece here are social influencers. This gets kind of there's sort excuse me. Speaking of being able to travel as much as you are with your competitors and then teammates as well, we see a lot of training with friends only. And this can be great. We want to have that social component of this as well. But a lot of times why this doesn't work is because it's not challenging enough. It can be really easy to be comfortable with the people that you see on a regular basis and not push yourselves to work as hard as you can. Another one, this is very often pre-event, is hoping to play with players that you like. Again, you'll get to know everybody really well. Why this doesn't work is that's something you can't control, and very frequently, the only thing that can happen is that you're disappointed with the groups that you end up getting. Um, and the final piece here is having parents heavily involved in getting ready. Um, no matter how positive the intention behind that can be, oftentimes that gets you out of following your own plan and doing what other people want rather than working on what you know from a process perspective will allow you to be successful.
All right, so we've talked about what typically happens. We've talked a little bit about why that may not always work. Now we're going to introduce the idea of some preparation keys that we feel comfortable work all the time. And what these boil down to is you need to have a clear focus, you need to put in the right effort, and you need to have a clear process that you can follow and repeat over and over again. And so if we look at those people who prep well, and again, if you look at junior level, college level, and we advance into the pro ranks especially, they're doing an excellent job of this. And they're focused on five things. Number one, they're going to top up their energy 100 to 100%. This is that idea of going on the long distance trip without a full gas tank. It makes no sense. They're trying to do this from both a physical and a mental perspective. They want to be at 100% so they can be their best when they're out on course. Secondly, they have a really clear plan for the course and the conditions and how to adapt it if anything changes. This again allows them to have a ton of comfort. They're not burning mental fuel wondering what they're going to be dealing with. They just know that whatever the situation is, they've got a plan for it. They'll be able to handle it. Next thing here, and this one applies to everyone here, this is probably one thing that people aren't thinking about. Oftentimes people are trying to find their confidence or hope for it. They hope it shows up, and it's based on how well they're swinging the club that particular day. People who are excellent at preparation actually are intentional about building their confidence and their focus leading up to the event. They don't leave it up to chance. They don't leave it up to the last swing. They have a process that they can create to increase that confidence as they go forward. Next thing here, when you're prepping properly, athletes will take care of distractions and setbacks before they happen. And what that means is they're going to have a plan to deal with those distractions and setbacks. So when they do happen, because they almost always will, they know how to handle it and they're not burning energy and they're not getting frustrated by it more than they need to. And so they just get back on course. And this ties in with this last point and really ties into all the points above as well as preparing properly allows you to focus on what's in your control and let go of the things that aren't. You don't get to control what actually happens at the golf course in terms of pin placements or the weather conditions or the green conditions. You don't get to control who you play against and how they play, but you do get to control how you prepare. Now, Scott's going to share a fairly recent example that we think highlights this from the PGA.
So I imagine some of you might have caught the Players' Championship this year, specifically because of the unique nature in which that it ended, being a Monday playoff. This image here on the right that hopefully everyone can see here is of Rory McIlroy warming up ahead of the playoff against JJ Spawn this year. And I'll let you take a little look at this right now and have a look and see if you can notice anything unusual about this image. What some of you might notice here is Rory's orientation to the driving range. You look at the divot patterns, they're moving in a certain direction, and Rory is facing almost perpendicular to them. So what he was doing in this instance of his preparation ahead of the round is he got permission from the golf course to hit across the driving range in order to prepare for the wind direction that he knew he was going to face on the par 3 17th at the Players. Between rounds, Rory was very intentional about topping up his energy to 100%. He spoke about that in his post-win interview. And then this image is the exact example of planning for the course and the conditions. He had a abbreviated warm-up on the golf course as far as the actual hitting of golf shots goes. He still went through his physical routine of going to the gym in the morning, but had a very shortened driving range session very intentionally to prepare for the course conditions and the amount of wind that they were experiencing that week at Sawgrass. Doing this, Rory was intentionally building his confidence and focusing on the shots that he knew he was 100% going to face. Again, this is a very, very unique circumstance and not necessarily an opportunity that everyone is going to have to warm up on a range pretty much by themselves. But Roy took advantage of the opportunity and adapted his preparation in order to build his confidence and focus. He also was very prepared for the conditions, right? That week there was a ton of wind. It changed a lot throughout the week through all four rounds. And he even had setbacks during the playoff, including three-putting the 17th hole after having hit a very good tee shot onto that par 3. He was ready to deal with those things, was able to deal with that, and then move on for the rest of his playoff to play at number 18. And that also touches on being able to focus on what's within his control. Although it was a very tricky place to hit his first putt from on 17 when he three-putted, that was the best place to hit it. And all he did and all he could do was hit as good a putt as he possibly could and allow the hole to catch the golf ball. And it just happened that it didn't go in. But he was able to regain focus. And then by the time he was on the 18th hole for the final hole of their playoff, he was fully back in control of his process and able to execute and move on through the rest of through the rest of the hole to eventually win the tournament.
Yeah. And just to reiterate what Scott's talking about here, what's really critical is Rory was super intentional about how he prepared for the playoff. He eliminated anything that wasn't going to help him do what he needed to do in that playoff setup and wasn't burning extra energy worrying about or taking care of or doing things that really weren't going to have an impact on that playoff as it was designed. So linking this back to where you're at and where you're going to go, we've been talking about this timeline around 5 to 7 days, practice round, pre-round, and post-round. There's specific things you're going to focus on there, but here's probably one of those things that hopefully everyone walks away with is preparation is one of those things that we think you need to get really, really good at. It doesn't require any talent. So another way to think about this, get really, really good at managing those things that don't require any talent. There are strokes to be gained there. It's an opportunity for you that you don't want to give away. And all it takes is a little bit of thought and effort on your part to have a plan 5 to 7 days before the event that you're building up your energy, you're building up the plan for the course, you're building up your confidence, both technically and mentally, so that you can face whatever you're going to face during the event. During the practice round, your focus is going to switch a little bit here. This is really reinforcing your plan and fine-tuning any of the ideas that you have. It's not about playing a whole round of golf. And we'll see that a ton at the junior level. So practice round becomes playing a competition against maybe your buddies instead of learning what you need to learn and fine-tuning your plan. Pre-round is really engaging that plan and maintaining your energy so that you can go out and perform as you need to. And post-round, your whole focus here after day one, recover, review, learn what worked, and maybe where you need to tweak things a little bit. We're going to go into a lot more detail on these. So if we think about this, the 5 to 7 days before the event, in other words, the week leading up, you want to really focus in on controlling what you can control. Take advantage of that time, and you're going to look at this from the 4 components of performance. So physically, technically, tactically, and mentally. From a physical perspective, your job is to get up to 100% as best you can. That means you need to get great sleep, 8+ hours a night as a junior athlete. And if you're training a lot, 8 to 9 hours of sleep is perfect. Secondly, you want to focus on your active recovery here. So this idea, if you're maybe nursing an injury or you just need to do your regular stuff to stay in tip-top condition, take advantage of that. Don't go out and train and then play around and then not do stretching or rolling or the things that you need to do to make sure your body's totally ready to go. That week leading up, really take care of the food and hydration. Make good choices. So if you're eating chocolate bars and bags of chips and drinking energy drinks left, right, and center, you are not going to be in a good position to have a good event. You're going to be burning energy like crazy physically leading up to the event. And this last idea, which can be really tough for a lot of athletes to wrap their head around, is that you want to taper your training down. What that means is you've been working super hard up to this major event, let's call it. Right now, you actually need to dial that back a little bit. You need to take a little less time on course, a little less time doing physical training so that you're not burning your body out right before you play. Okay. Next, we have technical. And technical, most important thing here is have very clear intention or purpose behind the training that you're going to do. Your focus here should really be on maintenance type things, fine tuning, those types. You're not learning a new skill set or trying to develop a new swing. There really should be no significant changes or adjustments. And this is another interesting idea that a lot of athletes don't take advantage of. Like practice your warm up in the 5 to 7 days before the event and practice variations on it. So a shorter version of your warm up and the full version of your warm up so that you know it inside out when you go to play. We see a ton of juniors and even at the college level where the warm up looks different from one event to the next. And sometimes they play well and sometimes they don't. And this is one easy piece to control that people aren't taking full advantage of. From a tactical perspective, obviously we want you to learn the course, but we also want you to understand the facilities that you're going to be playing at. Where are the washrooms? How do I get into the place? Where do I need to access whatever I need to access? Like understand where there's going to be a washroom on course as well. Also, in that time leading up, develop the plan for the course that you can actually follow. What are you doing hole by hole? How are you approaching it? What are you going to do if there's different pin locations? And how can you prep to make sure that you've got all those questions answered and you're not going in wondering, oh, what's going to happen? You already are prepared, you're ready to go. And the other thing here that's really critical is gather information on the conditions as they expect them. So look at the weather reports. Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be raining? Think about that ahead of time so you can have a plan mapped out. All of those things are going to help you on the mental front as well. Mentally, we want to have a good idea of what success looks like for us. So you go in, it's the first tournament you've ever played. Maybe trying to win the event is not the best thing to be focused on. Maybe it's just competing and feeling comfortable while competing. But you get to define that, and you can define that with your coach. What you're trying to do leading up to the event is build your confidence. And to build your confidence, you're going to focus on two things. You're going to focus on previous success that you've had. So remember the things that you've done well in pressure situations. And then secondly, remind yourself that you put in a lot of work, whether it's this summer, this year, previous years leading up to this, you should be able to lean into that and feel good about your game and where you're at. Next thing here is really important is you focus on the process that's in your control. So yes, you might want to go in and win the event, but thinking about winning the event every 5 seconds doesn't actually help you get ready the days before. Know that you want to win, and now what am I going to do to give myself a chance to make that happen? Talked about it a little bit already here, reinforce any positives. So you want to zero in on the things you do well. You don't want to really be thinking a ton about the things you don't do well. Coupled with that is this idea of have a plan for the things that would typically distract you or cause doubt. Have a way that you can deal with them so that when it happens, if it happens, you feel like you can handle it and move on. And this one's really important, and we see this happening, particularly at the junior level. It does happen at college level too. Is like you need to manage your relationships, and by that we mean take care of things that can cause you challenges leading up to an event. So if you talking with your parents or even your coach, let's say about golf every day leading up to an event actually makes you more anxious, then you probably want to eliminate that or reduce it. Maybe spending time with your friends becomes a distraction and you don't train enough, or you don't get ready and prepared in the way you need to. So you need to manage those. Relationships, if you don't handle them properly, are going to be an energy drain and it's going to make it more difficult for you to perform. And the last idea here, 5 to 7 days before, is close any open loops. So what this might mean is maybe you got a test coming up and you're really worried about that test. You need to figure out a way to close the open loop on it. An open loop is just anything that your brain sees as a distraction or a problem that it wants to solve, and so it works on it constantly. And so closing an open loop, you can do this one of two ways. You can do it temporarily or permanently. So if you have an exam, there's probably not a lot you can do about that except when you write it. So when you write it, you close that loop permanently. But leading up to an event, if you know there's an exam the week after, maybe the day after the tournament ends, you want to have a plan that lets you study and you focus on studying when you've got it in your plan, and then you play golf and focus on golf when you've got that in your plan, and you're not kind of crossing those two things. So take care of the open loops.
Diving into the practice round here, we'll start with physical. This is a really important piece here, and a lot of people miss this opportunity, but actually conserving your energy, right? It sounds can sound counterintuitive. You're going to be out there learning the golf course, walking the golf course, playing holes on the golf course. But this is a great opportunity to do what Kim was talking about in a couple of different places, mapping out the facilities. Where can I get more water? Where are the bathrooms? If throughout the summer you're going to play in some warmer places, are there places that I can stand in the shade, hide in the sun, doing that sort of thing to conserve some of the physical energy there too? Maybe you're not carrying your bag or you're carrying less equipment as well. Physical side of things, a proper warm-up is super, super important. This is an opportunity to make sure that you can avoid injury, but also, again, take advantage of your ability. You don't want to be on the first hole still feeling like, you know what, I'm not really warm, not hitting it the way that I want to. Push cart piece is a really big one. Massive opportunity not to have to, carry around several pounds of whatever it is that you're going to have in your golf bag all the way around a hole before you have to go and play a multi-day event. Hydrating and eating. This is so, so important. We see this at the collegiate level all the time. This ends up being one of my most important jobs as a collegiate coach is to remind people to eat and drink. Especially with some of the places that we travel to, since we're an NCAA school at SFU, we're competing in the States very, very frequently. and the sun and the heat down there really drains you sweat a lot, you need to eat, and you need to replenish all those things. And yeah, being ready for the conditions, right? Whether it's sunny, whether it's rainy, whether it's windy. Those are really important physical pieces because the comfort and the energy that you'll feel on the golf course is going to directly impact your ability to think clearly and then also execute a physical skill like a golf swing or a chip or a putt really well. And then the biggest one here, this sort of ties a little bit into the active recovery piece that Kim talked about. A full cool down is important. It can be really easy to finish a practice round. I'm sure many of you have experienced practice rounds that have felt like they go on for a long time and you just want to go lie down and sleep immediately. It's important to get that recovery piece in there as well so that you can work to top yourself back up to 100% on the energy front. Going into technical now in your practice round, a proper pre-round warm-up is really important, right? This is so that you are making sure that you're going to be able to avoid injury, but also not ingraining any bad habits. I'm sure everyone's had an experience where you make a swing when you're still feeling cold and you do something that you never would do any other time if you were fully warmed up and ready to go. Then one of the most important pieces from a practice round perspective is we actually want a calibration focus to your skills. So that's making sure that you're aligned to where you think you're aiming. Whether that's with your tee play or your approach play or your short game or putting, it's really important to actually be aiming where you think you're aiming. We want to fine tune our technical elements for the conditions. So if you're playing in BC for the first time and it's in May right now, or sorry, in April right now, or at the tail end of April and it's really wet, if you've never played on really soft grass before, there's a big conditional adapting that you have to do to manage that. And then the final piece is just checking your equipment. You got enough golf balls? Are all the grips the way that you want them to be? Are there any equipment things that you need to add in there? Make sure you have enough tees, umbrellas, all that good stuff. And in the practice round, Kim touched on this before. One of the things we see very frequently is people just go out and play and don't actually take the opportunity to learn the shots that you need to hit on the golf course. So having a very clear plan for what you're doing off the tee, a really clear plan into your approach play, and what the greens are like. You want to identify any sort of tricky spots and plan for them. You know, are there hazards off the tee that are in play if you hit driver, and maybe they're not in play if you hit three wood? Those kinds of things is what we're looking at. Assessing the course is really critical as well. That leads into some of the course conditions components, whether it's wet and soft, or is it really firm and fast? Is there a lot of wind? Even the temperature is a really important one. We live in Canada, and you're going to experience many, many different temperatures sort of throughout the season and throughout the country as well. The golf ball will go further when it's warmer out, and it'll go a bit shorter when it's cooler out. And that's a really important piece to be able to consider. You really want to check the facilities again. This is another opportunity to make sure you know where you're getting your water and everything from, using the bathrooms and things like that. And then fine-tuning your plan is really important. And if we can just suggest one major takeaway, what we see very frequently is that people will focus a lot off of the tee and focus a lot on hitting an iron shot that goes like actually has the result that they hope for. So outcome wise ends up in the middle of the green or wherever it is you're aiming. But what I'd like for everyone to try and consider is to have a very clear plan of what they want to do on the greens. And what that means is where's the best place to leave your approach shot? Is short of the green the best place to leave it? Is it right of the green? Is it left of the green? Are there hazards around the green that you want to consider? And that way, you'll be able to identify areas that you want to play to. Because a 310-yard tee shot counts for the same as a 3-foot putt, counts the same for a chip shot or a bunker shot. And we see people and players spend way more time on the tee shots than on the greens. And then the mental piece is learning to detach learning actually having a focus for your practice round. So being able to detach from the results in the practice round. If you shoot the round of your life in the practice round and shoot 5 under or something like that, that actually doesn't really count for anything for the tournament. So you want to be able to learn the golf course objectively so that you can create the best plan going forward. Now, having that concrete plan is going to build your confidence. So by the time the tournament rolls around, you're going to be feeling really comfortable and ready to go. And then one of the final pieces here too is the KISS acronym, which for anyone who knows what that is, it's keep it simple, stupid. What this is going to do is help you reduce some of that mental load and the strain that a new golf course can cause. Um, as much as you can, reduce the mental load and reduce the distractions and just keep your plan super, super simple. And then finally, you want to be able to close any open loops. From a practice round perspective, this could be a distraction on the golf course, whether that's a water hazard or something like that, a distraction from your close friends and family. But this is a super, super important one to deal with before you start your tournament. So the warm up before your round, this could be before round one or any competitive round. Physically, you want to do your full warm up. Again, like I mentioned before, we're in Canada. There's lots of times where it's going to be cold early in the morning, even in the summertime. So you need to be feeling physically warm and ready to swing a golf club. You never want to be warming up when you're, you know, 10 shots into the range session that you have there and not actually loose yet and warm, ready to go. And then during your warm up is your final opportunity to make sure you have enough food and water. It can be really easy to drink 2/3 of your water bottle on the practice tee because it's really warm out, and then you get out on the golf course and you're out of water by the end of the first hole. From a technical perspective, a proper pre-round warm-up is really important, and this is where the emphasis moves fully towards calibration. So what this means is you're getting prepared for the day ahead of you, not trying to find or swing. This is your opportunity to get really loose and warm and get a sense of what the conditions feel like. Does the grass on the golf course, the way that it's reacting with the club face, feel like it did yesterday? And then this is your final opportunity for an equipment check. This is really important. The rules have changed slightly now. You're able to carry 15 clubs in your bag as long as you declare it. Previously, if you had more than 14, you'd get a penalty. So being really clear about what's actually in your golf bag is super, super important. From the tactical perspective, during your warm-up, this is your opportunity to assess the course conditions and see if there's anything different on the day compared to when you played your practice round. The best example for that is if it's rained overnight a ton, that's going to change the course conditions pretty significantly. And this is your opportunity to identify that in order to adjust for when you're playing your competitive round. And the adjustment period is during your review of your course plan. Is there something you need to change from the practice round into your first round? Or did you identify something between competitive rounds that requires a bit of a review? Perhaps that's something that you're going over in your warm up. Then the final piece for the warm up component, many people will experience nerves and jitters ahead of their competitive rounds. Physically speaking, as a chemical reaction in your body, those things are actually very similar to excitement that you feel. So this is an opportunity for you to reframe that nervous energy into an excitement. This is your opportunity to go play a competitive round of golf, which is something hopefully you all love to do. So be excited about that and be excited for the opportunity to play that. One of the ways that you can do that is also remembering previous successes. Rely on those positive things and make sure you're framing as much as you can into that positive sense and focusing on what you do want to achieve rather than being distracted from anything that you don't want to have happen. This is where focusing on what you can control is super important. At the end of the day, that is literally all that you can do is control what you can control. And then the final piece is reducing and dealing with those distractions. So if something does pop up, you got to wrap it up as quickly as possible. And if you're not able to permanently close the loop and you can only temporarily do that, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to reduce that mental distraction before you get out on the golf course.
And that takes us to post round and really think about this as a chance to recover and reflect. Those are the two big things: recover energy mentally, physically, and reflect on the round so you can prepare for the next day. So obviously, we want to do a proper cool down. You need to do an energy top up by eating, hydrating. Sleep's a big deal for people post round on multi-day events, especially, and actually plan out your food and water for the next day. So hopefully, most people are doing these things, but you want to be pretty specific about how you handle them. Sometimes people leave the eating and hydrating kind of up to chance. It just depends on where we're at or where we're going to eat that night. You should actually have an idea for you, yourself, your body, and how it responds. Do I need to eat like a big meal within 30 minutes of finishing play? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? Have something specific that works for you. Um, technically, really, this is mostly about your equipment, maybe doing some stats entry. But the big thing that we're going to think about here, and it ties into the mental, is don't look for problems with your swing. You're not going to be able to do anything about that. It's just going to create uncertainty and anxiety. So take care of the equipment, do your stats if that's what you do, kind of post round. But kind of this is the area that probably needs the least amount of attention post round. Tactically, it's about a couple of simple questions. How well did you actually follow your plan? Did you stick to it? Did you even remember it when you're out on course, which often happens to athletes? And one hint there, write it down in your yardage book. Have a couple of little hints for certain key holes. Then the other big thing that you want to be checking in on tactically, kind of post round, is what might need adjustment for tomorrow. Maybe there's a hole where you thought the distances were going to be a little different than they were. The way the ground responded was a little different than what you were expecting, or maybe the wind conditions kicked in differently than what you were expecting. So what adjustments can you make? And on the mental front, really, we're trying to reinforce positives. We want to close any open loops, which means if you had trouble on a particular hole, you want to deal with that mentally and get it out of your head. You don't want to be reliving that over and over and over again. So one of the things you can do there is just kind of look at whatever that experience was, learn what you need to learn, and then close it off. Figure out what it is that you need to do differently the next day, and then let it go. And a real simple practice that helps post round is identify a minimum of three things that went well that day for you, or that round, which could be a mental thing, it could be a technical thing, could be physically how you manage yourself on course or how you maintained your energy. But find three things and then limit it to one thing that you're going to focus on doing better tomorrow and how you're going to do that. Part of the reason we do this is our brains are always looking for problems. It's really easy to get fixated on everything that went wrong. The thing is that reduces your confidence and it creates anxiety. And no one plays well when they're lacking confidence and they're feeling anxious. So we want to remind ourselves of what went well. This one can be a huge challenge, whether you're junior or playing at the college level. You got to limit your golf talk. Doesn't mean you can't talk golf, but if you talk about your round all night long, you're burning fuel and you're probably generating a story that's actually not going to help you play well tomorrow. And so what helps with this, identify something specific that's a non-golf focus that takes your mind away from golf and thinking about golf or worrying about golf or what you got to do tomorrow. This could be games, music, hanging out with your friends or family, but have a plan. All right, so we give you a ton of information on those 4 slides. I know we're getting close to the end of the hour here, and we want to open this up for questions as well. We got a couple more slides that we're going to whip through here pretty quickly. One of these, we just wanted to identify some of the top distractions that we see, and we'll actually address these more thoroughly in our next webinar and in a course that we're developing right now. But off course, from our perspective, these are probably the most common distractions we see. Something around coach-parent expectations or interactions with the athlete, where there can be a little bit of a social tension there, we'll call it. One thing that we see with athletes quite a bit is trouble sleeping leading up to an event. They're so nervous or anxious or excited about the event. And what helps there is to have a plan for how you're going to sleep that's consistent and that you follow on a regular basis. Another big one that might be more kind of pre-round or the night before would be just struggling to eat. And so again, knowing this is really important. What tends to throw you off or what can be a distraction so that you can develop a plan to deal with it. Pre-competition nerves, doubts, very common. Almost every athlete has this. And then maybe being a little distracted by social media, which might mean what other people are saying about the event or about former competitors or past winners, or maybe even people who are interacting with you. On course, we tend to see these things as most common. So dealing with nerves and anxiety, addressing or coming up against what you would consider a scary hole, or there's got a certain feature that throws you off, or you can't see where you're going to be hitting to, so that scares you a little bit. Becoming overly score aware, so understanding where you're sitting in the tournament compared to everyone else, and then pulling yourself away from your own process. This one's a giant one at the junior level, just pace of play, getting warned by officials that, hey, you got to speed it up. This happens to almost everybody, and it can be a huge distraction. You need to have a plan. You need to be able to wrap your head around that from an emotional and a mental perspective. And then just addressing and dealing with a bad shot and being able to learn how to let it go, or a club that you might not be comfortable with. These are common distractions we see across the board. You need to get good at identifying what you typically deal with. And then one of the things that you can do is you can use some of the tools that we have. They're on the JPT website. They're on our website. We have some free resources there. One of them is our what we call scenario cards. And some of these are mapped out already in terms of an approach that you can take to deal with them. So check those out. You might want to download those. Action moving forward. So one of the things that we hope is a key takeaway is that you get really, really good at managing the things that don't require any talent, focus, effort, the process. And with that, we think there's these four things. Focus on controlling what you can control. Remember that preparation helps you maximize your ability. You put tons of time and energy into getting good at this sport. You don't want to give it away because you didn't put the little bit of extra time into actually getting ready for the event and making a plan. And that plan should address all four components, just like we talked about. So mentioned it just a second ago here. We have some free resources. They're all posted on the JPT website. They're also posted on our website. We've got a tournament checklist, which we'll just show you a preview of. We've got scenario cards and we've got a tournament preparation form. On top of that, we just want to make it known as well that we're providing coaching to athletes who want to work on the mental side of the game. We have some courses that are in development. One of those, the first of those, is a tournament preparation course where we'll go into more detail on kind of the preparation aspect across the four components. That'll be available on April 13th. And obviously, you can use the One Iota app, and there's a lot of tools and resources in there. We're going to give you a quick preview on these things. This will just take us a minute. Hopefully, you can see this relatively clearly. But this is one of the free resources you can download. It's just a tournament preparation form. It gives you some key questions to consider before taking part in an event, kind of the week leading up. And it also gives you a real quick checklist so you don't forget tackling any of these items that actually have an impact on your ability to perform in the event. Next page here, you see these are examples of a blank form for the scenario card. So what's the scenario that you would deal with? And then how do you want to handle that if it happens? Having a plan is really critical. We've given you a number of examples here of what we see as typical scenarios and then how we would propose you might want to deal with them.
This next page that we're into now is a couple of images from our app and our website. So this is our pre-event form and our tracking ability in our One Iota app. So you can see in the four places here, there are specific views. So in the top left there, you're just creating your events. So adding in the name of the event, the number of rounds, which golf course it's played on, and how many rounds it is. Then we move into the four components and addressing those. So the physicals in red, technicals in yellow, tactical in green, and mental in blue. We provide you options to identify specific components in each of the four components of performance that you want to focus on leading up to the event. The next two images there are your ability to plan and then actually schedule them into our app. This is a really, really important resource on our app that allows you to track over time the areas that you use as preparation and how effective they are for you. As well as the fact that it gives you an opportunity to schedule out everything that you're doing ahead of a tournament. So you're able to identify if you are starting to fall into some of the categories we've talked about previously, of perhaps training too much, or maybe not quite hitting on all four of the components that you need to be able to do ahead of a competition. On our next slide here, you can see it's a little bit of a preview of what you'd be able to see as far as your tasks are. So once you put the planning, once you identify the components that you want to work on and put those into an actual plan, you'll get reminded of them and have them all readily available for you to see and then check off as you complete them. And then what's an additional feature that's incredibly important in our app is the recommendation component. Once you start compiling data and we get to see the results related to how you perform in competition and the way that you prepare, we're able to provide you recommendations on different ways to prepare in the future or recommendations to continue to do things that you're doing really well already.
And there you have it. We've run you through a ton of stuff. Hopefully everyone here has been able to find at least one or two elements that they think they can put into practice that'll help them prep. But I think here, if we're willing to take a bit of time, and Ryan, you can tell us if this is okay. If we have any questions, we're happy to address any of those right now. If you're a little shy, you can always reach out to us as well. We'll make sure our contact information is available, but I think we'll open it up there to Ryan.
Yeah, ask any questions anybody's got, go for it. You can just unmute yourself and ask a question, and then if you guys have anything else, I will, like tomorrow, I'll send out kind of a link to all the resources, and then to the the One Iota app and all that stuff, so you guys can kind of get familiar with that. And then I'll also include their contact info. So if you guys don't feel like asking the questions now, you guys can just shoot them an email. But if you have any questions, go for it.
The chat's still live too, so if you're feeling nervous but bold enough to say something now, then I'll be monitoring that. So feel free to type something up there as well.
I'll just note that I learned I basically did everything wrong before I played any junior event. So that explains my performance.
Thanks for sharing, Ryan. Appreciate that. I like one comment here as we're waiting to see if anyone does have a question. Yeah, oftentimes the post round stuff is a bit of a surprise to people. Usually juniors, even college athletes, they're not thinking a whole bunch about post round, between rounds, and what they should be doing. It's usually very basic, and there's a lot of opportunity there that can help you improve your scores while you're actually playing an event, and obviously increase your comfort and your energy levels. If you've ever played an event and at the tail end of the event you're completely dying mentally, physically, it's probably because you didn't do something on the post round that would have helped you.
All right, cool. Well, if nobody has any questions or don't want to ask them right now, that's all good. We'll wrap it up. Thank you guys very much. That was awesome, very informative. Like I said, I will reach out to everybody, kind of send them a link to like the recording as well as the resources, and then how you guys get in touch with kind of the One Out app, or if you guys have any questions for these guys, I'll send that out tomorrow. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you guys for putting that on.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Cool. See ya. Awesome. That was great, guys. Thank you again. I think it's just us now. Yeah, cool.
Good. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, that was great. Like I said, I definitely learned that I was in the wrong headspace going into tournaments, that's for sure. My chicken finger diet a week before probably didn't help.
Mm.
Cool. If you guys am I good to send the recording to the people that didn't make it today? I don't know if you guys are cool with that or yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Actually, I would love if you could even just share it with us, and like I'd even love
Yeah.
to post it on our website as well. And you guys are
Yep.
welcome to do the same on yours, and um, that'd be perfect.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, no, I'll figure out how that even works with getting this download and stuff, and I'll get it over to you
Okay.
guys. And then
Sounds
yeah,
good.
put up on our website and like that resources page with all the stuff we already have up from you guys. And then, like I said, I'll send like the individual documents directly to the players and everybody that was in this, just so they have
Mhm.
it.
Great.
Honestly, I had never looked at the app. That looks really like really cool. So that's
Awesome.
looks like it actually very very helpful going into tournaments. So if I get back into it, I might have to subscribe here.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
absolutely. Well, we've got to hopefully be able to help you out there too on that front because it's funny, like you mentioning that you didn't get into the right headspace as a junior. Like I didn't get into the right headspace as a collegiate player, and I was pretty good, right? Like it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, and it's just
Yeah.
hanging fruit that we want people to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, no, for sure. I fell very to the boat of if I had a great practice round, I was like, oh, I'm winning this tournament. If I had a bad practice round,
Yeah.
it's like this is why am I even playing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Why show up for the event, right? Yeah.
Yeah, my parents were like, well, we paid $500. That's why you're showing up.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
All right, cool. Yeah,
Um,
I'll get that all over to you guys tomorrow, and then I'll send it all through Golf Genius because it's just make sure
yeah.
everybody gets it. I'll include your guys' emails in it too. So Ryan, if you want to make sure I have both Scott and Kim's email in there,
Yep,
I'll make sure
I'll
to
send those over right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, really appreciate this, Ryan. Nice to meet you.
you
I
guys
heard
well.
good things from Mr. Stoley's there on you and your crew, so nice to finally meet you. I think the only other thing for us too is if you get any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
If you
absolutely.
have any feedback, other than you were doing everything wrong previously, we'd love to hear that too in terms of the format and what we shared, or even the style and any of that. So we want it to be a good experience for you guys and obviously for the people who are attending. So
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it was really good. Well, I'll put something together in like the email as well, like if anybody has
yeah,
any feedback to get back to us on that. And
excellent.
then for the next ones, I know Blake sent over an email. Ryan, are those dates good? I know they're not necessarily exactly kind of the dates you guys had in mind. We're just trying to work it around like our tournament schedule and like other e-blasts and stuff going out just to kind of make it best possible for everybody else.
Yeah, so I guess I was gonna respond. I have not.
You're
I'm
good,
unmuted now, right?
bro. We're slow sometimes.
I Yeah, 'cause you sent a couple dates. Were those like for like promoting the webinars, or were those actually the webinar dates
Those would be the
themselves?
webinar dates, and then we would do 10 days out of the webinar. We'd start kind of doing exactly what we did, put out the e-blast
Gotcha.
for the people, and then
Okay.
maybe do something on social. I think it was like sometime middle of May. The other one was next one was like middle of June, and then September. We would do August for that last one because I know that was kind of the date you guys had in mind. It's just we have
Hmm.
so many like that's kind of peak tournament time for everybody, and then
Yeah, I gotcha.
September
Okay.
we're pretty much like we don't have anything going on in September, and that's kind of when Golf Canada and Golf Ontario also kind of takes a
Makes
step back.
sense.
But we can
So
like I
yeah,
said, we can chat dates and stuff like that where we're still open to it. It was just those are the dates we thought would work best, probably on our end.
in that case, I'll double check those dates because I was thinking about them completely differently. I was thinking about them for the email blast, not for the webinars.
Yep.
Um, Start of May, I think we had end of April, probably good. I'll check with these guys' schedules.
Yeah,
Start of June, I think we kind of were already there.
yeah.
The third date though on that email says June 16th, and then you mentioned September. Those seem
A
Yeah,
little
maybe just the
different.
emails
probably
a little
probably
different.
September 16th was maybe the date we are supposed to put here.
Okay,
Our
sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
calendar. I'll blame hold on, I can pull it up here. We have it all scheduled in here.
Um,
Yeah, it's just the email from April 1st from Blake
exactly, yeah.
that Ryan's referring to.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if he
Yeah.
wants to see me on it, but let me take a look here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
Well, oh,
yeah, we can double check with you guys, and we'll communicate over email for the exact dates.
Yep.
But if it's May 8th, June 12th, and then September 16th, those are kind of the tentative ones, and we'll get those nailed down and confirmed if that's going to work on our side.
yeah. I mean, do you guys have a few minutes we can meet after this? Just 10, 15 minutes, walk through a couple of things, including the dates, and just, yeah.
Yeah, three of us. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Yeah, yeah, no, let me know. And like I said, we can work around it. Those are just kind of a rough idea of when it fits in our schedule pretty well and not like overloading them with tournaments and stuff like that. So, but yeah, let me
Perfect.
know if those work for you guys and we can figure it out.
Yeah, so just like
Will do.
Ryan, just to confirm, like September better than August, just because of events, but September's we got a little
Whenever
flexibility
it's
within. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, September. Like we only have an event that kind of is the last weekend of September, I think, and
Okay.
then most of Golf Ontario, like the next gen stuff, they're not even doing a fall series for Golf Canada, so that's
Okay.
fine. And then Golf Ontario pretty much wraps up their schedule at the end of August, and most provincial associations as well. So I think that's probably any time in September works.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool, awesome. Thanks again, guys.
All
I'll
right.
shoot you guys an email tomorrow with all the info and stuff.
Great.
Thanks
Awesome.
so much.
All
Have a good
right. Thank you,
night.
Ryan.
See you guys.